do, y'all? This be your showtime. Pretty boy. Blessed we bait. Eddie with another motherfucking video. About to react to trap for 60 hours at the bottom of the ocean. Let's get into it.
Working as a cook on a tugboat called Jackson 4. It had set off from the coast of Nigeria.
That's a cool boat,
and was working
but I
in the
can't
icy
see myself
waters
getting
of
on
the
no
Atlantic
ship.
Ocean.
Me and my wife want to go
The
on a
job of a
cruise,
tugboat is
I
to
don't know.
tow other seacraft across the ocean to their
I
destination.
see myself sinking.
Because they can't maneuver over the waters on their own.
You know,
In
some of
Okun's
us can't
case,
swim.
His tugboat was one of 3 crafts
But
set
yeah,
out to bring
it is
the
all
oil rig
good.
back to land. Far out into the deep waves of the Atlantic Ocean, it's not unusual to hit rocky waters or a bit of stormy weather. It's part and parcel of working on a boat out at sea, sometimes for many weeks.
Man, that storm looks
Some days
scary.
you will drift along with relative ease,
I
and on
can't.
others
I
you feel
can't.
truly at the mercy of the elements. So when this particular storm hit in May 2013, Okun and his crew had no idea just how much destruction it was going to wreak. That day, Okun awoke in the early hours of the morning and headed to the bathroom to freshen up. It was when he was in the bathroom that it happened. Something hit the tugboat, a large wave, a gust of wind, who knows, but it was the vessel's final blow. He barely had time to think before the icy waters began sucking the tugboat into its depths. He couldn't see anything, but he knew that the ship was in serious trouble. He tried to scramble out of the bathroom and towards his
This
fellow
is like
crew
the
members,
Titanic.
but nothing could prepare him for what he
Trap
would
for
see
60
next.
hours is crazy.
The
I
force
wouldn't
of
know
the
what to
waves
do
rocking the
myself.
boat meant that he couldn't get to the emergency exit hatch, but he could see some of his colleagues inching closer to it.
They
As
should have
everyone
helped him.
attempted to clamber their way to the exit hatch, a huge swell of water burst into the ship and swept through
See,
it.
Titanic shit.
He could only watch in horror as 3 of his colleagues were sucked out into the black depths. It's hard to imagine the force of the waves that were sucking this once powerful tugboat deep into the ocean. He had no time to grieve for what he had just seen as he was thrown about the ship as it continued to plummet. He turned away from the exit hatch and was immediately swept up by another violent wave, but instead of being pulled out to sea, he was thrust down another of the ship's passageways. In the darkness, he had no idea where he was being pulled or what he would find there. Then, with a deafening crash, the staggering descent of the ship stopped as suddenly as it had started. He slowly realized that he had been swept by the surging water into another toilet, near to one of the other cabins.
That's
Water
crazy.
continued to surge and pummel the tugboat on the outside, but the inside seemed to have stopped moving. He had no idea what was happening, but he realized one thing with astonishment. He was still breathing. He couldn't understand it. Was he really at the bottom of the ocean? What had happened? Where were his colleagues? Were they all right? Had anyone survived, or were some of them trapped like him? The tugboat had overturned completely and was now sitting upside down at the bottom of the seabed. Incredibly,
That's crazy.
he seemed to be
Upside
in
down.
some sort of small air pocket, preserving a precious space where he could still breathe. He realized that he was alive, and he could still breathe in this small air pocket, but he wasn't sure what to do next. He tried calling out for his colleagues, peering into the darkness for any sign of them, but there
I
was
don't
nothing.
I don't see how.
Stuck in the tiny toilet, with water slowly but steadily trickling in, he looked around for things to climb onto, to keep his head out of the water. He found an overturned wash basin and clung to that to propel himself a little higher. But this wouldn't last. He needed to find something else to climb on, and fast. As terrifying as it was, he had to leave his tiny toilet and see if there was anything else nearby that he could use to build height. He finally built up the courage to open the door and managed to swim into the adjacent cabin. From there, he was able to pull off parts of the wall paneling. He piled up the paneling to create a sort of makeshift raft
This
and
is really
managed to lift
interesting.
himself further out of the icy water.
And that
There was nothing else to do now but wait and pray
is
for a
cold.
miracle.
Ooh,
Get NFL
That
Sunday
looks deep
Ticket
as
now
fuck.
on YouTube and YouTube TV. Sign up in time for NFL Kickoff Weekend.
There was another reason that he needed to stay still after building this raft. not just out of fear of dislodging another great swell of ocean water, but to preserve the oxygen in his own body. Any form of exertion causes you to breathe more heavily, and he was aware of the limited oxygen in his tiny air pocket. He stayed as still as possible and tried to regulate his breathing. But even this wouldn't be helpful for much longer. The truth is that even if he had remained completely still and meticulously rationed his breathing, oxygen would eventually become too scarce. At these sorts of depths in the ocean, the oxygen levels are incredibly low and are quickly overtaken by the nitrogen levels. Oaken did everything he could to cling to life. Lost and alone in the darkness, freezing cold, and with the water levels slowly rising. He had no food, no water, but he did manage to find a small bottle of Coke.
Oh, man.
But he had more to worry about than a lack of food or water. Already incredibly uncomfortable from the freezing salty water and struggling without anything to eat or drink, something else started to affect him. After being in the harsh salt water for a long time, his skin began to peel off in painful flakes. Even though things seemed utterly hopeless, the devout Christian clung to his hope in God, praying again and again that he be saved. It was clear that for Oaken to survive, he would truly need some kind of miracle. Fortunately, this was something that he believed was completely possible, even in the darkest of times. As well as his faith in God, Oaken kept himself sane with thoughts of his life and family back home. Thinking of them gave him renewed strength to keep fighting and believe that a miraculous rescue could be just around the corner. 60 hours had now passed since the tugboat had crashed into the seabed, and he was still clinging to life, way down there at the bottom of the ocean. Suddenly, he
just
thought
swung
he
to the
heard
top.
a faint hammering on the deck. Was this all in his mind? Or was salvation truly at hand? Oaken's desperate hope was true, in a manner of speaking. There was indeed a search team of divers circling the wreck of the tugboat. But they were not there to look for survivors. It was so impossible for anyone to possibly survive down in these depths that the search team had merely been sent to recover the bodies. Dutch company DCN Diving had already found 4 bodies and was certainly not looking for survivors. The team went deeper into the murky boat, using their headlamps to shine light into the dark water. As the divers swept through the corridors, Oaken could see the light from one of their head torches passing him. Oaken was desperate to attract his attention, but he was so exhausted he could barely lift his arms. Miraculously, for some unknown reason, the diver returned to the same spot. Oaken was more terrified now than ever before. He knew he had to muster all his strength and not let this moment go by.
That's
Weak
it.
from days without
He
food
need
or water,
food and water.
Oaken had to use the last of his remaining energy to swim towards the diver. He still could not get his attention, so he reached out and tapped him on the back of the neck. The video footage from the search team's cameras shows the incredible events that happened next. Once the diver spotted Oaken's hand reaching out, he turned to his microphone, reporting to the rescue ship above. "Corpse, corpse, corpse," he called. But then he realized how very wrong he was. As the diver approached to touch the dead hand, it touched him back. You can hear the amazed reaction of the rescue team in the live video footage. "He's alive? He's alive!" they exclaimed in shock.
That's a shock. That's a shock.
What if I'm worried about switching phones?
My speakers out that.
What if I'm worried about making the switch?
When the search team
That's a
realized
shock.
they had discovered a survivor, they were overjoyed at this unprecedented miracle. It was an astonishing result for everyone, not just because they completely hadn't expected it, but because it truly was impossible that someone could survive in those conditions. Even though he had now been discovered, there was still a way to go before he could be safe. The rescue team was worried that the excitement of being rescued would cause him to panic and hyperventilate. They weren't just concerned about his feelings, but because he had been in such a nitrogen-high environment, it was likely that he had absorbed potentially lethal amounts. Raising your heart rate while in this state is incredibly dangerous and can be fatal. So for the rescue team, keeping open calm was literally a matter of life or death. Fortunately, the rescue team, both under the water and above in the search panel, were incredible at keeping open calm and positive, talking him through the rescue process. The diver's video footage is incredibly emotional, showing the team leader talking calmly and kindly to Open, putting him at ease. Although he had been rescued, it wasn't as straightforward as simply taking him back up to the surface. Having spent so much time in the pressurized container, his heart had slowly filled with gas, meaning that it was no longer able to cope with the air conditions above the water.
His
The
body
return of Open
cold.
to the surface and the outside world had to be done in several separate careful stages. First, the rescue team strapped him into diving equipment, including a mask to help him breathe underwater. Then they led him through the water into a diving bell. The diving bell returned him to the surface, but he had to go immediately into a decompression chamber. Open spent 2 days in the chamber, where his heart eventually returned to normal levels. Soon enough, the miraculous survival and rescue story of Harrison Open spread around the world. Readers and experts all over the world were amazed and moved by the miracle, which had never happened before. Some hypothesized that it was the chemical makeup of the water that he was partially submerged in. The water could have helped absorb the otherwise potentially dangerous levels of nitrogen and carbon dioxide that arise in a concealed space over a long period of time. Open has spoken openly about the strength he found in his religious faith while trapped in the depths of the ocean. In dire straits with no sign of rescue, no sustenance, and danger and horrors all around him, it is amazing that he kept his belief throughout it all. Although Open swore never again to go near the ocean, he became a certified commercial diver in 2015. He got his diploma from a rescue diver who found him at the bottom of the ocean. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please press the like button. Consider subscribing to our channel and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting true story.
That was dope. I hope everybody like, comment, share, subscribe. He was trapped for 60 hours and he made it. Everybody thought he was dead, but he wasn't. But yeah, everybody like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back at it with another video.